Welcome students. This video lecture is a part of Fluorescent Public School Digital Learning Program, Class 12th Chemistry, Chapter number 3rd, Electrochemistry. Okay, this is your 4th lecture on this chapter. So today we discuss about Coulomb law and electrolysis, laws of electrolysis that are better known by Faraday's law, first and second law. So first we start from the variation of molar conductivity with the concentration. This is our previous class lecture topic. That graph we explained in our previous lecture, but the important things that we have to utilize from this graph is that suppose we have to draw this by using this graph and define Lorentz-Sager equation, we find limiting molar conductivity. You can see easily on this graph that if you draw this curve of the KCl, then that curve intersect the y-axis at a particular point that is called lambda m naught. That means limiting molar conductivity. But if we see the weak electrolyte like acetic acid, then if we have to draw this curve further, then there is no intersection point to the y-axis. That means it is quite difficult to obtain limiting molar conductivity value, that is lambda m naught value, for the weak electrolyte. So there is a difficulty to calculate directly the value of limiting molar conductivity. Then what we do, we use a law that is called Coulomb law, that is basically used to calculate or determine limiting molar conductivity for a weak electrolyte like acetic acid. Okay, so what is the basically application of this law? Coulomb law is used, yes, you can see here, yeah. So if you go for the statement of the Coulomb law, it is a sum of limiting molar conductivity of individual ions. You can see here the molar conductivity of an electrolyte is the sum of ionic conductivity, and the type of ionic conductivity is limiting molar conductivities. So if we repeat again, the molar conductivity of an electrolyte is the sum of limiting molar conductivities of corresponding cations and anions. That is called Coulomb law. So basically, if we take an electrolyte that is NaCl, then limiting molar conductivity of Na plus and limiting molar conductivity of Cl minus, if we sum up both the conductivity, then we got the limiting molar conductivity for NaCl. Okay, as similar, suppose we have to calculate the limiting molar conductivity of copper chloride, that is copper second chloride, then what would be the expression? Okay, see your textbook, there is an expression, and tell me in the next video lecture. Come to the next, I will give the example that there is an electrolyte that is AX and BY. This XY represent the stoichiometry. You can see here. So suppose there is a NaCl, then value of X and Y is 1. If you put a 1, lambda not A, that is that represent the cation, and that B represent the anionic form. So there is an expression for the limiting molar conductivity or equivalent conductivity of electrolyte. Okay, so you can make this expression for different electrolytes. So basically go for the application of this Coulomb law. It is used to determine the limiting molar conductivity for the weak electrolyte indirectly. Again notice this, not this, that we calculate limiting molar conductivity for weak electrolyte through this Coulomb law indirectly, not directly. Directly we can calculate limiting molar conductivity for the strong electrolyte, but indirectly we calculate the limiting molar conductivity for the weak type of electrolyte. Now it also determines the degree of dissociation, that is alpha, and that can also calculate the dissociation constant, that is K. Yes, we can also determine the value of dissociation constant K by using this formula. So going on this formula, first we have to calculate the alpha. What about this C? C is a concentration that must be in a mole per liter. Alpha is a degree of dissociation. Okay, so first we calculate this degree of dissociation from this by using this formula. This is your limiting molar conductivity, and this is a conductivity at particular concentration. Okay, and this is a conductivity at infinite dilution. That is the limiting molar conductivity. So first we have to calculate this alpha, then go for the calculation of dissociation constant, that is K. C alpha square upon 1 minus alpha. Now we discuss the another topic of this lecture, that is electrolysis. So if you see the definition of this electrolysis, if we break this term electro and lysis, that means the breakdown. Lysis means breakdown. So electrolysis is the process in which breakdown of electrolyte is carried out in presence of electricity. Okay. So if the breakdown of any electrolyte, that means dissociation of any electrolyte into its corresponding cation and anions, then it is called electrolysis. So electrolysis is a kind of endothermic process because we have to supply the energy in the form of electricity. Okay, have you see the you can see the definition. The process of breakdown of electrolytes in presence of electricity. Okay, one more thing is that where this electrolysis can be carried out. So electrolysis can be carried out in a particular type of cells, that is electrolytic type of cells, that we discuss in our first lecture of this electrochemistry session. Okay, so what are the important points about the electrolysis? Some of I already discussed, but I repeat again. The first one is, in an electrolytic cell, both oxidation as well as reduction takes place in a same cell. Okay, but in contrast to the electrochemical cell, there is a different container for the both the process. That means one is called oxidation of cell, another is called reduction of cell. But in case of electrolytic cell, both the process, that means redox type of reactions, are carried out inside a single container. That is a basic difference point in between electrolytic cell and electrochemical cell. Second point is, anode is positively charged and cathode is negatively charged, but the polarity is reversed in case of electrochemical cell. Why I discuss here? Because these are the differential points for the points in between electrolytic and electrochemical cell. That's why I discuss here. In case of electrochemical cell, anode is a negatively charged, and we also made a trick here, there, that is lone left oxidation anode and negatively charged. And that trick is valid only for electrochemical type of cell. Okay, and here the polarities change, get reversed. Now the third point is, during electrolysis, metal deposited only on a cathode. Okay, this is point to remember, that there is a deposition of elements as you pass the electricity to the electrolytic cell. There is a deposition of any metal that would be take place or carried out on a cathode, that is negatively charged. So these are the three important points that are very useful for us to elucidate the Faraday's law. Okay, so what about the electrolytic cell? You can see in the pictorial here, there is a common single container where both the electrodes are put together, and positively charged is the anode and the negatively charged is the cathode. And as we know, the oxidation is carried out at the anode always, and the reduction is carried out at the cathode. Okay, so the deposition of electrode is always carried out, is a take place on the cathode only. So by study this electrolysis process by using electrolytic cell, Faraday conclude their conclusion in a form of statements that are called Faraday's law. So basically Faraday give two laws, one is first and second law. So what we see, first law, the amount of substance that deposited or liberate at the cathode is directly proportional to the amount of charge that flow through the circuit. That means as we increase the quantity of charge, then quantity of amount deposited on the cathode will also increases. Okay, that is all are about the first law. If we represent this quantity of substance that deposited, suppose 1.2 gram silver is deposited on a silver cathode, then the weight of the W is representing 1.2 gram. Okay, and the amount of electricity or a charge that is required to deposit this 1.2 gram of silver, that is Q. What we observe, as we increase the amount of charge, then amount of substance deposited will also increase. That means if we want to deposit it more and more substance, then we have to supply more and more charge. So W is directly proportional to Q, and as we remove this proportionality sign, we have to put a constant here. Thus that is Z here. What about this Z? Z is a kind of electrochemical equivalent. Okay, from the electricity chapter number class 10. What about the Q? Q can be replaced by IT. So the formula become W is equal to ZIT. That can also be learned as in a common language that ZIT. Okay, so Z is all about electrochemical equivalent, and its value is equal to E by F. E means electrochemical equivalent mass. F means Faraday, that is having value 96500 coulomb. I is the current that measured in ampere. Is the time that calculate in seconds. So these are the abbreviation which we use in these formulas. W is equal to amount of substance that deposited on a cathode. I is the current that measured in ampere. Q is the amount of charge in a coulomb. Z is the electrochemical equivalent, that value is equal to E by F is the equivalent mass. Okay, F is a Faraday. 1 farad is equal to 96500 coulomb. So I will provide some data about this, about the equivalent masses. For example, copper, zinc and silver. If you see that, compare the equivalent mass of these three elements, because generally these three elements are discussed in your chapter number 3, and the questions are generally comes from only these three. So these data are already given in your examination, but for current you can learn them. The first one, if you compare these equivalent masses of these three different elements, then what we got, silver is showing maximum equivalent masses among all three atoms. Then in the second position we have zinc, and last we have copper. So this is all about Faraday's first law. Now we discuss the second law of Faraday. If number of electrolytic cells are connected in a series combination, okay, you can see the pictorial here. If number of cells are connected in a series combination, and the arrangement is shown on your screen, the positive terminal is attached with the one electrode, and the negative terminal, that means cathode, is attached with the anode. Cathode is again attached to the anode to maintain the. So this is a kind of series combination that is shown here, and there are three different electrodes are put together. The first electrode is represent the, yes, the first electrode represent the copper electrode, the second represent the silver electrode, and third represent the zinc electrode. Okay, and the aqueous solution of their salt is filled inside this electrolytic cell. So the salt of this copper is copper sulfate. So in first beaker we fill copper sulfate, aqueous copper sulfate solution. In case number second, in the second beaker we fill silver nitrate, that is AgNO3 salt solution, and in the third we put zinc sulfate solution, aqueous solution of zinc sulfate, and carried out the reaction. Then what we see, after some times there is a deposition of copper on the copper electrode or in a beaker number first. In beaker number second there is a deposition of silver and in beaker number 3 there is a deposition of zinc. Then there is a question which arises in our mind, that which electrode got maximum deposition. So the correct answer is silver, because its equivalent mass is maximum, that is 108. So what is the basic conclusion which we made from this second law of Faraday is that amount of substance deposited on corresponding electrode is directly proportional to their equivalent masses. As the equivalent masses of the substance increases, then amount of substance deposited will also increases. So the statement is, when the same quantity of electricity is passed through the different electrolyte for a particular time, the amount of substance deposited or liberated in the electrodes is directly proportional to their equivalent masses or weights. So the formula that we derive from this law, we see that the W is directly proportional to E, so we can replace it by W1 divided by W2 is equal to E1 upon E2. Okay. In your examination, out of these 4 unknown parameters, 3 are already given, and examiner will ask about the remaining one. You can easily calculate the masses or equivalent masses. From the point of examination, you have to learn the statement of Faraday first and second law also, because it may seem that these statements are coming in 1 or 2 mark questions. Okay. So what kind of conclusion we made through this second law of Faraday, that W is directly proportional to equivalent masses. Okay. As the equivalent masses will increases, the amount of substance will also increases. If we compare the equivalent masses of the silver, zinc and copper, then we got that equivalent mass of the silver is maximum. That means the deposition of silver will be maximum. Okay. You can see here the order of that deposited at the cathode is silver is maximum, then copper is least one. So this is all about today lecture. We made a small worksheet for you. Okay, you have to note this. This worksheet include 2 numerical questions also, so you have to note the answers along with the questions and along with the date. Okay, the first question is, during electrolysis, substance is always deposited at what cathode? Cathode will be the answer. Come to the next question number 2. Amount of substance is directly proportional to amount of charge that flow inside the circuit. Okay. Now the question number 3 is from the numerical section. If a current of 0.5 ampere flow through a metallic wire for 2 hours, then how many electrons would flow through the wires? You can easily calculate this formula by using Faraday's first law by the formula ZIT. Okay. So what do you see? Yes, there is a solution. Time is already given. Current is already given. I is equal to 0.5 ampere. That is half ampere. Time is 2 hours. So we have to convert this 2 hours into seconds. So we got 7200 seconds, and this is your current. So the amount of charge is 3600 coulomb. This is a class 10 type of questions, and as we know that 96500 coulomb, that means 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 numbers of electrons, that is 1 mole of electrons. Okay, so 1 Faraday is a charge that is belongs to 1 mole of electron, and 1 mole of electron contains 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 electrons. So basically we got the number of electrons. Come to the next question number 4. This is all about your degree of dissociation and dissociation constant. I also provide the solution for this. Okay, have a look on that. If you got some difficulty, you can ask. So this is the end of our lecture. In our next lecture video, we complete this chapter and discuss all the backside question answers. Okay, till that, have a nice day. Thanking you.